1, 2, 3, 4.
Chant down Babylon kingdom. Team make we chant down Vatican now. Bang bang chant down Babylon kingdom. Team make we chant down Vatican now. Chant down Babylon kingdom. Team make we chant down Vatican now. Bang bang chant down Babylon kingdom. Team make we chant down Vatican now.
What up, y'all? Babylon 5 Podcast. It's your boy, Jermaine Event. How are you guys doing? How's your week been? I hope your week has been phenomenal. And this upcoming week will be even better than the last. It's your boy, Jermaine Event. This is episode 199. Period. You know, niggas put that T at the end of their periods, the word. I don't think niggas is putting the actual period and then put a T. I haven't seen that. That'd be extra as fuck. Where's the Babylon? Jesus. I was telling myself, I was like, I'm gonna get in there. And I'm not gonna swear for 10 minutes. It'll be easy. I got less than a minute in. Cursing like a sailor, ladies and gentlemen. I'm trying to be a little bit more mindful of what's going on. And if you guys want to be mindful of what's going on in today's episode, the Babylon 5 Podcast, where we discuss combat sports news and pretty much anything that I want to talk about. I mean, consistently, I'd mainly want to talk about UFC. But if I want to talk about music, I'll talk about music, movies, TV, whatever. We'll talk about whatever I feel like talking about here. If you guys are OGs to this podcast, and you know, your boy used to do reviews of Dragon Ball Super mangas back in the day. So this is the Babylon 5 Podcast. If this is your first time, welcome. Warm welcome. We're going to talk about UFC 289, which took place in Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada, ladies and gentlemen, which was headlined by Amanda Nunes versus Irene Aldana. We'll talk about it. We'll also talk about the People's main event, Charles Oliveira versus Beneil Dariush. I just realized today I've been spelling Oliveira wrong for like the last 3-4 years. I didn't add that extra. There's an I in there. There's 2 I's in Oliveira. I don't think I've ever put that extra I. So I just wanted to be honest about that. I've been getting that shit wrong this whole time. And we're gonna talk about UFC Fight Night. Marvin Vettori versus Jared Cannonier, which is a pretty interesting fight. We're also going to talk about the co-main event of that card, which is my boy Arman Sarukian versus Joaquim Silva. And it's a pretty interesting fight. There's some pretty interesting details on that fight that we will get into, ladies and gentlemen. And we'll definitely get into it. And if you guys would like to get into the midst of it all, get into the gist of it, you guys can follow this podcast on Instagram and Twitter at Babylon5Pod. You guys can email this podcast at Babylon5podcast@gmail.com. If you guys would like to follow this podcast on Twitch, head on over to twitch.tv/Babylon5. If you guys would like to cop some merchandise, head on over to teespring.com/store/BOFpod-shop. And lastly, don't just be my niche, be my patrons. Head on over to patreon.com/Babylon5Pod. And you can be my patron today, and I'd appreciate it so much. I'd appreciate you. Shout out all my subscribers on YouTube. I think it was about 37 new subscribers last time I checked. Shout out to all you guys. Because there was a long time where I wasn't doing the proper things to push the channel out there, and therefore there were no new subscribers. So shout out to all you guys, and welcome to all new subscribers. I appreciate you guys so much. Welcome all my babblers, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome all my babblers. Last night, UFC 289. We're gonna jump right into the co-main event. The champion has a name, and unfortunately that name is Islam Makhachev. All right, it's Islam Makhachev. But last night, former champion Charles Oliveira, the people's champ, took on Beneil Dariush, who was in the midst of an 8-fight win streak. Everyone's calling, why isn't Beneil getting the shot? Why isn't Beneil getting the shot, ladies and gentlemen? Why not Beneil? Those were the accents I was hearing in my head as everyone was complaining on Twitter. Why not Beneil? Beneil was like, I know a lot of people don't like me because I'm a zealot. I'm all about this Jesus shit, yada, yada, yada. And I was like, yeah, it's pretty annoying. You know what I'm saying? But if you can fight, I don't care. Like, I don't like a lot of the shit that Kobe says in the media, but I think the nigga can fight. So I fucks with him. It's about how that goes there. But your boy, Beneil Dariush, gets his number one contenders fight, guaranteed number one contenders fight. He wins here, walks away healthy, and he goes on to Abu Dhabi to fight Islam Makhachev. But unfortunately for your boy, Beneil Dariush ended up getting that ass beat and finished in the very first round by Charles the Bronx Oliveira, man. Oliveira walking out that arena went nuts for Oliveira, dude. He looked like a superstar. He looked like a superstar in there, dude. The crowd, the audience, that arena went nuts for Charles, okay? And when he was walking out and he had his hands and everybody, dude, it was like that arena was fucking worshiping Charles Oliveira. It was crazy. Like, you guys know I'm a huge Charles Oliveira fan. I've been singing this man's praises for years, long before he was the champion. I told you guys right here on this podcast, I believe. I believe this podcast was there. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was. Right before he fought Tony Ferguson, I predicted that he was going to dominate Tony Ferguson, and lo and behold, he dominates Tony Ferguson. He's just a beast, ladies and gentlemen. Different beast, same animal. Okay? Shout out to Kobe Bryant and Kanye West. This is a good fight for my boy Charles. It was great to see my boy get back in the win column. He looked a lot better. He was fucking slipping punches. A big knock on Charles is his lack of head movement. But in this fight here, Charles was slipping punches. He was slipping multiple punches. It wasn't just like just a little bit of focus here and there. No, my boy was moving. He was fucking hitting and not getting hit, ladies and gentlemen. He looked amazing when he was on the ground. He was on his back, and Beneil was trying to land ground and pound, and Charles was it was the fucking Matrix in there, my nigga. Charles was dodging everything from his back, nigga, on the ground. Go back and watch that shit. Watch how Beneil Dariush is throwing down with power. Like, I'm looking, I was recording it, I didn't upload it. But I was saying, I was like, ooh, there's a lot of power in that fucking punch. Then it happened again. Boom. Oliveira dodged that. Whew. Oliveira slipped. Oh, just on the ground, slipping every single punch that Beneil had for him. It was crazy. Charles looked in top form. He wobbled Beneil to start the finishing sequence. He wobbled Beneil with a head kick. Beneil blocked the head kick, and it still wobbled Beneil. He blocked the head kick, and it still wobbled. Look at this shit. Look at that. It still wobbles him. All right. Justin Gaethje said Oliveira hits harder than anyone he's ever fought. I believe it, ladies and gentlemen. I believe it. But I've been telling you boys about Charles Oliveira, about that bad man that is Charles Oliveira. And we saw last night he was praised as a superstar. It was electric in there. You know what fight I want to see right now? Well, obviously, I want to see Charles Oliveira versus Islam Makhachev. Islam was already chiming as he should because he knows that's the next fight. Obviously, they said the winner would fight Islam, and Charles looked phenomenal and finishes Beneil in 1 round, in less than 1 round. All right, he looked phenomenal in there. So, of course, that's the next fight. But after Charles gets his belt back, ladies and gentlemen, after he gets his belt back, I would really like to see Charles Oliveira versus Conor McGregor, dude. I think that in Vegas or even Dublin, dude, in an arena, man. Charles is a superstar. Charles is a superstar. I don't know about Dublin because that's kind of one-sided with the audience. But he was in Canada last night. And the crowd was all about Oliveira last night. So I couldn't have been happier about how that fight went. Charles looked amazing. Top form, Charles. And he's coming to get that. He's coming to get that fucking belt back. All right, we're at 12 minutes, so that I don't even know. I was probably swearing before. I'm gonna try to just say whatever. I'm gonna just say whatever. Anywho, I was swearing. I was swearing, but congrats to the Bronx, who speaks a little English now. Charles is speaking a little English these days, ladies and gentlemen. Back when they thought pink polos would hurt The Rock, before Cam got the shit to pop, the doors were closed. But back when, back when Charles couldn't speak English, honestly, it'd be like a card with like Charles, like fucking Zhang Wei Li, like every fucking top fighter that doesn't speak English. I'm not watching this fucking press conference. I'm not watching that fucking press conference. I'm not watching this nigga come over here, ask them a question in English for like 2 minutes. Then this dude over here try to translate that shit for 2 minutes to this guy. Then this guy talks for 5 minutes. Then this guy translates it for 30 seconds. And it's like, no way you just said everything he just said. There's no way you just said everything he just said. It's so fucking weird. But I just skipped those press conferences. I'm like, this is exhausting. How you gonna trash talk where you say some shit here, he has to translate it to this guy in English, but that guy you're trash talking doesn't speak what you speak or English. So then he needs somebody to translate to him in his language what the trash talk you were saying. That's nonsense. Nonsense, ladies and gentlemen. But Charles speaks English. He's speaking English. Not fluent. But your boy is speaking English, and these press conferences is about to get good. Can't wait to see Charles Oliveira versus Conor McGregor, ladies and gentlemen. That's the fight I want to see in the near future for Charles Oliveira. Congrats to him. I don't know what happens with Dariush next. Maybe. I think Dariush should fight the winner of Arman Tsarukyan versus Joaquim Silva. Or, yeah, Joaquim Silva. I think he should fight the winner of that fight. But we talk about that fight a little more later. Congrats to Charles Du Bronx. Team Du Bronx. Also last night, Amanda Nunes. As I predicted, all right? You guys remember what I predicted last week? It looks exactly like I predicted. I said I thought this fight would look like Kama, D'Lo Brown, Farouk, The Rock, Mark Henry, the Nation of Domination. Amanda Nunes battered Irene Aldana. I told you guys Irene Aldana shouldn't have even been in there with Nunes. There was one moment in the fight where Irene Aldana caught Nunes behind the ear. But that was like pretty much the only moment. That happened in the first round. Pretty much Nunes was coming forward and just touching Irina up however she felt necessary. Whatever she felt like doing, she did to Irina Aldana. So she was coming forward and getting real confident because Irina Aldana at that point wasn't throwing any punches back. You know what I'm saying? Like, she wasn't throwing back. Nunes was doing damage unimpeded, and then Irene finally threw a counter punch, and it caught her. She like kind of stumbled off and almost like fell over. It like really knocked off her balance, but Aldana didn't like really capitalize on the moment. One moment in the first round that I thought was really interesting with Aldana, just given the fact that who's that guy? Diego Fuentes. That might not be his last name. The guy who trains with Alexa Grasso. Alexa Grasso trains with Irene Aldana. He's the guy I'm speaking of who came in short notice and damn near won that fight at the pay-per-view like maybe a month or so ago. Okay, he was there with Irene Aldana. Who is that guy to them? Their jiu-jitsu coach. I was in Las Vegas when Grasso beat Shevchenko. And Shevchenko went for that spinning back heel kick, right? Went for that spinning back heel kick. And so when I play UFC 4, I've like done that move like recently with the career or whatever I'm doing. I'm like making CM Punk champion. But that move right there, even when it lands, it's like, okay, if it lands just right, it's a decent move. But it's a medium reward. It's high risk, medium reward. And it's like almost very high risk, because if you fucking slightly mistime that, you leave yourself wide open to get fucked up. Your opponent can jump on your back, hit you up with punches, all kinds of shit. You throw that kick and you just you're not facing the opponent anymore. You're this close to the opponent and he's facing you. You're now faced the other way because you've missed the kick. It leaves you wide open for bullshit. What can happen when you throw that kick at the wrong time? Irene Aldana's teammate knew what to do. Valentina Shevchenko threw that kick, and she jumped on that back immediately. Took her back, went to the ground, and got the finish. Right? Got the finish. Just squeezed in on that choke and tried to squeeze the life out of Valentina. And you say, why are you talking about this? Why are you talking about this? Because there was a moment in the first round where Nunes threw that same kick and she missed. And she was turned around back to Irene Aldana. Aldana was like so close. And I'm thinking in my head, oh shit, this is how Grasso beat Shevchenko. I was watching, I was like, holy shit, it's about to happen. But she just kind of like backed off, honestly. She backed off, and I was like, it's kind of alarming that she would back off in that moment. You would think she would probably want to grapple with Nunes because of the power of Nunes, which was clearly a problem for Aldana the entire fight. But she chose not to grapple in that situation. And I was like, dude, that was a mistake. Probably could have ended the fight right there. All right, that was a mistake. But as the fight went on, it was clear that Aldana didn't really know what to do in the grappling at all. Which isn't a new story. What happened in her last fight with Macy Chiasson? She looked good on the feet. Once Macy took her to the ground, that was pretty much it for the fight until she caught Macy with a nice up kick. All right? That's what was happening until she caught Macy with an up kick. So I didn't think she had any place. I thought she had no business in there with Nunes. And then when she had those moments where it was like, dude, grapple. You should probably grapple here because she's battering Aldana with the striking. The power was a clear problem for Aldana, but she clearly had not. Either she wasn't confident in it because that jiu-jitsu coach that I'm referencing was there last night. He was there. He was in her corner. So if that guy is there, the guy who worked on the drill to catch Shevchenko when she throws that kick, I'm sure Aldana was there while these training sessions was going on. I just don't understand how that same opportunity presented you that won your teammate the belt and she just didn't even jump on it. The team could have stopped it after the fourth and it would have been completely justifiable for Irene Aldana's team to stop the fight because Irene Aldana was getting absolutely battered and they just said, just go forward and take the damage. Just go forward and try to finish the fight. That's what they said to her because she's already getting her ass kicked. Just go forward and take the damage and try to win the fight. It's silly advice. I guess if she wins somehow, then it's like, yeah, I'm glad they told her to do that. But nope, she just ended up getting even more beat up. Even more beat the fuck up. So it is what it is. Nunes retires. All right, she retires. She's like forever champ. I'm happy she's retired, as I've been calling for her retirement for a couple years now. So now we can finally see some movement in division. I was going to say these divisions, but I'll just say division because Dana White is saying that pretty much he's most likely going to retire the women's featherweight division with Amanda Nunes, which I've been saying this whole time. She's not a champ. She doesn't defend that belt. It's basically a fake weight class that was created for Cyborg, just to get Cyborg there, to potentially set up a Cyborg Ronda Rousey fight at the time. And then once Cyborg lost to Nunes, that division was pretty much done. I mean, she went and fought Felicia Spencer, which I thought Spencer was dope. I feel like if there's no Nunes there, Spencer could have been the champion for a little bit. I still see no reason why you don't keep the division. You got Chelsea Chandler, who's a new 145. You got Norma Dumont in the division. I feel like the clear-cut thing, you niggas forgot about Jermaine. Jermaine Durandamy, I just saw that is coming back and is supposed to fight this summer. This might sound crazy, but what if you had a rematch between Jermaine Durandamy and Holly Holm? They fought for the inaugural 145-pound belt, and there was all that controversy of Jermaine Durandamy punching Holly Holm after the bell, after every round. She hit Holly with a late punch, super late punches. Just caught her clean with some shit after the bell, and the ref did nothing about it. And Jermaine went on to win that fight. It's crazy. You guys could run that back. But instead, they're like, you know what? She's gone, so let's just get rid of this division. She wasn't a champ. It was just a marketing tool. That division clearly wasn't real if she never really has to defend the belt. And then if she retires, you're just going to dissolve the division. You don't sign women in that division. You sign Chelsea Chandler, who I'm a fan of, but you don't sign fighters. So it wasn't a real division. She wasn't champ. And it's like, fuck, dude. I was thinking about the whole, you're calling her the greatest fighter of all time, but part of that is saying she's the champ. And I guess, yeah, she necessarily moved up to this fake weight class for women to fight this one person in this fake weight class where they basically don't hire fighters. They don't sign fighters for this weight class. They just wait for 135-pound fighters to just not want to cut as much weight and fight at 145 pounds just to say something from time to time. But they usually don't book fights at this weight class. All right. It's all tied into why she was considered the GOAT. She's gone. It's good. Good for the sport. We can move on from this whole thing. She was good at what she did. Happy trails. I saw some nonsense where she was saying whoever has the belt after her will be fake forever because they didn't beat her. That's not how this works, lady. It's not how this works. I hate when people say that nonsense narrative. They said this when John Jones left light heavyweight. They were like, well, whoever has the belt after John is going to be an asterisk because they didn't beat John. No, John retired. I mean, John left the fucking weight class. Amanda retired. If you're like, yo, I'm not fighting anymore, I'm done, I'm giving up this belt, you guys can't turn around and say, well, they didn't beat him, so they're not the real champions. They didn't beat this person. Well, this person's done fighting. All right? That's not a factor anymore. How do you know that this person couldn't have beat that person on the right day, on the right night, where Juliana Pena upsets the quote-unquote greatest fighter of all time? You know what I'm saying? Who knows? So it's just a nonsense narrative. We can get a new champion, some new movement in the sport. I'm excited. I'm excited that Nunes is gone. Happy trails. I don't know who's going to fight for the 135-pound belt. Maybe they just dissolve that too because Rousey's gone. I'm sure they don't really care about women's fights anymore in general. But I don't know what happens. Happy trails to Nunes. Work on your grappling, Irene Aldana. Yeah, that's all I'm going to say about that. Next week, we have UFC Fight Night Vettori Cannonier, ladies and gentlemen. Vettori Cannonier. Yeah, it's going to be a fucking good fight. I forget how I set this up. Let me see. Oh, yeah, there we go. Okay. Yeah, this is going to be a good fight next week. We got some pretty good fights. Oh, wait. Actually, let me go back. Just to Let's just talk about that card from last night, man. In Vancouver, Canada, all the Canadians won. All Canadian fighters won. So shout out to all the Canadian fighters. Mike Malott, Marc-Andre Barriault, Jasmine Jasudavicius, Ayman Zahabi, Kyle Nelson with a nice surprising win. I didn't even know Diana Belbita was like now the new adopted Canadian, but she moved to Canada and the crowd was going nuts for Belbita. So like every Canadian fighter won. Dude, Jasmine Jasudavicius made Miranda Maverick look average. Made her look pretty average. I'm a big fan of Miranda Maverick. I think she's pretty talented in there. And Jasudavicius was better than her everywhere. I saw some shit where Maverick was claiming that she went blind in her left eye for the whole third round. But I don't think that tells me anything about why you kept foolishly going for these takedowns when you were being out-muscled by Jasudavicius the whole time. Like, man, she made her look pretty average. But that was a good card last night. So shout out to all the Canadians. Shout out to everybody last night. But so next week, we got Vettori versus Cannonier, man. This is going to be a pretty good fight, at least I believe. So, dude, these guys are pretty even. I'm looking at their, like, UFC stats. And so I would guess by this. So they're basically the same height. Vettori's 6 foot, Cannonier 5'11". Cannonier has a 3-inch reach advantage. So that's interesting. 3-inch reach advantage. He's 9 years older. Or no. He's 11 years older. Yeah, no, I'm wrong. Dude, Jermaine. He's 9 years older. I was right the first time. He's 9 years older than Marvin Vettori. They pretty much they both land about 4 strikes per minute. Vettori's accuracy is at 44%. Cannonier at 50%. Strikes absorbed are pretty much identical at 3.6 for Vettori and 3.8 for Cannonier. Defense is pretty much identical at 59% for Vettori, 61% for Cannonier. So the grappling here is where you really see the difference. Vettori will shoot for takedowns. He averages almost 2 takedowns per 15 minutes. So, and while Cannonier pretty much doesn't shoot for takedowns, we've seen Cannonier be taken down by people like Derek Brunson. And I was thinking about that Derek Brunson fight. And yes, Cannonier came on strong and won at the end, but haven't we seen Derek Brunson kind of come on strong in fights as he did in that fight, and then just like that, kind of gasses out? And out of nowhere, it's like, dude, he's wobbling. He's on chicken legs. It was like he was dominating that whole first round. And then when he walks out for the second round, he's completely gassed. He's got nothing left. We've seen that happen for a lot of fights in a row for Derek Brunson. We've seen it happen quite often. So I look back at that fight and I'm like, that's pretty interesting to see. Like, yeah, it looked like a good win. But we have seen Derek Brunson kind of have his issues with cardio. And I feel like if we can count on anybody to have solid cardio, it's Marvin Vettori, who's just going to keep coming forward on Cannonier. Cannonier, I'd say, definitely has the power advantage. But I think Vettori is going to be in his face, just with the grappling, trying to get him up against the fence, clinching. Man, I just think Vettori gets it done here. If I can just get to the point. I think Vettori will get it done. The much younger fighter, and I just think his style, I mean, it says here that they throw pretty much the same, but I think I kind of think of Cannonier as more of a counter puncher. I think he kind of waits to try to catch you coming in, while Vettori is gonna come in, but he's gonna spam with punches and takedown attempts. He's gonna shoot on you, try to grapple, try to clinch you up against the fence and beat you up against the fence. Like, not necessarily. I don't think his game is really to take you down too much. Maybe he'll take you down if he can, but he wants to get you up against that fence, clinch you up, and beat you up against that fence. Yeah, I think Vettori's just gonna be too good. Not too good, but better than Cannonier. But I'm a fan of both. I still have a lot of respect for Vettori after that badass fight he had with Paulo Costa. He handled that shit like a G with the whole weight shit. Oh, we're going to fight at this weight. Then a few days later, oh no, we're going to fight at this weight. A few days later, we're fighting at this weight. And he still went in there and whooped that ass. So I'm a fan of both. And I think Vettori gets the job done here. But I'm cool with either one. I'm always cool with either one. That's the whole point of the sport. Also next week, man, real crazy. As you guys should also know, I'm a huge Arman Tsarukyan fan, right? Love me some Arman Tsarukyan. I love a lot of 155ers. It sucks because they all got to fight each other at some point, maybe. But, I don't know. That's how it usually works. Arman Tsarukyan is fighting Joaquim Silva, all right? Nobody wants to fight Arman Tsarukyan. They avoid this man like the plague. And I saw that Grant Dawson did an interview with James Lynch. Shout out to James Lynch. I was trying to remember who was this guy's name. I was like, what's this guy's name? I always watch his videos. James Lynch. All right. Shout out to James Lynch. And he was interviewing Grant Dawson. And Dawson was like, yo, is it awkward for these guys to fight each other? Because he's like, I believe they used to train at the same gym. And Grant Dawson says they both still train at the same gym. Okay. They both are training right now to fight each other next week at the same gym. Everybody's avoiding Arman so much that he has to fight his own teammate. Grant Dawson says that Arman is training on this side of the gym, Joaquim Silva's training on that side of the gym, and they just got the coaches separated, split. That's fucking weird to me. It sounds like, I feel like they're both not going to be able to stay in that gym after this fight, but because you've literally divided the coaches, everybody. The fighters, like Grant Dawson, they were asking, like, James Lynch was asking, like, bull, like, what are you doing? Are you, like, giving people advice, or are you not able to, like, you're trying to stay neutral? And he's like, well, Joaquim is my friend, so I'm helping him out. And he was like, Arman kind of, like, just does his own thing, and he doesn't really care about things going on around him, whatever the fuck that means. But I think this is the craziest aspect of this fight, is that these two are training at the same gym in preparation for this fight. It's nuts, but I guess you gotta do what you gotta do. I'm rolling with my boy Arman, as you guys know. I think he's one of the best in the world. I'm pretty confident that he is one of the best in the world. You got a couple of Armans on here. You got Arman Petrosian fighting in Christian Leroy Duncan. Undefeated Christian Leroy Duncan in the fight right before Arman versus Joaquim Silva. Muslim Salikov versus Nicholas Dalby, dude. That's a good fight. We got some good fights next week. I mean, if you're a fight fan, my nigga, well then watch these fights. Watch these goddamn fights. That's gonna be a good fight. Muslim Salikov versus Nick Dalby. That's an interesting fight, man. This Arman fight kind of snuck up on me. I forgot. I know he was supposed to fight like a few weeks ago and shit got canceled and they're moving it back. Like people don't want to fight Arman, man. They don't want to fight Arman. I feel bad for Modestas Bukauskas. He's fighting Zach Pauga. In the very first fight of this card, Bukauskas is on a 3-fight win streak. That's disrespectful. He's on a 3-fight win streak. Oh, wait, no, hold on. Well, he is on a 3-fight win streak, ladies and gentlemen. I didn't even realize that he got cut from the UFC. He's on a 3-fight losing streak in the UFC. Got cut, went to Cage Warriors, went on a 2-fight win streak, then he came back and beat Tyson Pedro in his last fight. And now he's fighting Ultimate Fighter runner-up, I believe, who was knocked out by Muhammad Usman in the Ultimate Fighter finale last season. He's fighting Modestas Bukauskas. I feel he just made his way back to UFC, but why the first fight? I just feel like that's disrespectful to Bukauskas. I feel like he's done more. He deserves more than the first fight against some Ultimate Fighter fucking flunky. Some Ultimate Fighter reject, if you will. But that's next week's card. And this is your boy Jermaine Event. Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and get up out of here. Yeah, it was good weekend of fights. Shout out to Teofimo Lopez. Great night of fights in the combat sports world. Yo, I was watching some highlights. I'm not super familiar with like as far as like Terrence Crawford and Errol Spence. I haven't seen every one of their fights. So when I was watching the highlights from Errol Spence versus who's that guy? Is it Spencer or some shit like that, or whoever the motherfucker with the braids? I forget his name. I believe I saw that fight. I believe when I was watching the highlights, I'm like, dude, I've definitely seen. I saw when he dropped him and all that shit. Like I remembered, I was like, I've seen this. I saw this fight. But, man, as I'm watching the highlights, I'm like, dude, this is going to be a pretty high-level fight between the two of them, between Bud Crawford and Errol Spence Jr., and I just honestly feel like Crawford is so powerful, so precise. He's so calm under fire, dude. Like, I think Crawford is the real deal. Not to say Spence isn't, but I think he's going to be the better man when the time comes. I'm excited for that fight. I am excited for Terrence Crawford versus Errol Spence Jr., man. Boxing is what boxing needs. You know what I'm saying? This is what boxing needs. So I'm definitely going to cover that fight when that happens here, man. I'm pretty excited for that. If you guys would like to follow this podcast on Instagram and Twitter, it's at Babylon5Pod. You guys can email this podcast at Babylon5Podcast@gmail.com. If you guys would like to follow this podcast on Twitch, head on over to twitch.tv/Babylon5, and you guys can cop some merchandise by heading on over to teespring.com/store/BOFpod-shop. And lastly, don't just be my niche. Be my patrons. Head on over to patreon.com/Babylon5Pod. And you can be my patrons today, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you guys so much for being here for the 199th consecutive week. Ladies and gentlemen, we here. Next week, 200. 200 of them things. I don't know. Numerically, it don't really mean anything. It's like, oh, it's just a milestone. Like, we made it. I guess when I upload this to Podbean, it'll be the 200th episode because I've done like midweek babbles. So like this will be I've done like at least one audio midweek babble. when I gave you guys, I felt like the podcast was too short, so I had to come back and give you guys midweek babbles. But yeah. So yeah, next week, episode 200 or whatever. Yeah, thank you guys so much for being here. As I said, episode 199. Hope you guys are taking care of yourselves and each other. And I will see you when I see you. I'll holla.